Hey guys, so welcome back to Indirect Knowledge. So today we have a tarot card reading and it's for Sim, and this is regarding a text. It wants to know what his ex is going to text him. So a lot of this is intuition coming through and stuff, and just kind of tapping into that inner resource, and then just using the cards as more like a catalyst for this particular type of reading. So just to get more perspective on the relationship and everything, and to kind of bring that out, we'll do a 7-card spread as usual. Tends to be my go-to for most instances, and then we will kind of go by just sort of the intuition to see what the text message will be about, sort of like the relevance and everything as far as that goes. So just bear with me a second while I go ahead and cut these cards, and then we'll go ahead and do the spread. Okay. Quite interesting. Okay, so Sim, relationship in the past, we definitely start with relationships and all, and so we have this here. This is the 8 of Cups. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of perspective on this particular card right here, because, there is some sort of, when you look at a card, a tarot card, sometimes whatever your first impression is relevant in terms of what you get from it. So bear that in mind as you're, as you're getting your tarot readings. This 8 of Cups, 8 is about, and you'll find that this comes in handy a little bit later in the spread. But 8, the number 8 in numerology, really has to do with the grounding. It's a very Capricorn type energy, Virgo, or Taurus. Those are the 3 earth signs in the zodiac. And 8 is really symbolic of those signs. By Capricorn, we're talking about groundedness, kind of sure-footedness. This is the kind of person that goes and they're just really about trying to set aside money for, when we say feast or famine, the Capricorn is the one that goes out and saves the money so that when the famine happens, at least they're not suffering as bad as everyone else is. But to do that, they're constantly working, they're constantly striving to be able to do these kind of things. So we see that quite a bit when we get to the 8s here. Now, the other thing too is we have Cups. Now, Cups are about relationships. And you notice this person in this picture is actually walking away from relationships. And there's 8 of those relationships, and the relationship with a grounded relationship. So it's one that, basically had everything that you might want in a relationship. Everything was really there. But with this particular card, it's almost sort of like saying that, even though we could have everything and everything is really good, we're still not satisfied. And that does happen a lot with not just with relationships per se, but just materialism in general. Now, guys, that if you guys have been watching my channel for any period of time, you know that I'm a monk. And so, we kind of, we eschew materialism for the most part. And it is more about service and love and devotion and those type of things, and love for God and spreading that message. But, if that's kind of your focal point, or if you're reaching for something a little bit more spiritual or along those lines, it may be in your nature to just kind of like not really be so attached to the things that probably, quote unquote, most people would be attached to, like the ideal relationship or, these type of things. So this is a very telling card right here with regard to the question that we're talking about, with regard specifically to the relationship. It's almost like everything can be good. I mean, you can have everything and everything is secure, you get pretty much everything that anyone normal would absolutely want, but it's still just not enough. Something is missing. And it's either that we are, so materialistic that we just want to go after more and more and more, so we're never satisfied enough, or it's that we're having this kind of a change of heart and we're going more in the spiritual direction. And for that reason, all these things that we thought we wanted once upon a time, once we get them, we realize, this stuff doesn't really make me happy. And so, yeah. In the current moment, we have this card, Okay, so now you'll start to see where that 8 comes in handy at. We talk about materiality or materialism or groundedness, all these kind of Capricorn things to do with the number 8. This is a 10 of Pentacles. Now, Pentacles are really symbolic of that Capricorn energy. They're the money, the material, the acquisition of objects or the acquisition of things. That's what we get a lot with this. Now, if you see this particular picture, you see that, people are pretty well taken care of. It's a pretty grounded. When we get to the 10 of any of the suits, like whether it's pentacles or wands or swords or cups, when we get to the 10, it's pretty much the completed cycle. It's sort of like the in-between period between one door closing and another one opening. And you see an older gentleman sitting down. You see some dogs here, well behaved. You see a couple of people over here and stuff. Everyone's doing really well. And this is sort of, in a lot of ways, this is called the legacy card, because essentially when you get to this point, you're so well off, you've pretty much achieved what you needed to achieve, that now it's about really kind of giving back to others and kind of helping other people out and that kind of thing. And that's essentially what is going on right now in the relationship. As far as the relationship was, it's sort of about, I don't want to say charity, but it's really just giving back. It's about goodwill, those kind of gestures and that kind of thing. So the text message, we can just kind of go ahead and get a sense that it's going to have something to do with like goodwill, or it's going to have something to do with, giving back, or it could be sharing something with this person, with Sim, that has a lot to do with, kind of like finality. So we have the 10, that sort of finality. But it's done in a nice way, a very sweet way. So it's not going to be like a real negative energy. It's going to be more of a positive energy, this message. Now, the next card that we have is going to be the near future. So we had the near past, which was kind of the walking away from the relationship and that type of thing, in lieu of other things. It wasn't that the relationship was a bad relationship. It wasn't that anyone was to blame necessarily. It wasn't that there was so much dissatisfaction there. It's just that there was something else, a higher calling, some other calling, that was pushing one person in another direction. It could be Sim, it could be Sim's partner. But that's what happens, and then a division happens, and then that's when separation occurs. And, this is, nothing new. This is what happens in relationships very often. In the near future, though, again, we're talking about groundedness. This is the 7 of Pentacles. So it's right before the 8. So the 10 is after the 8. This is before the 8. And you notice right now, like before the 8, this is a person that's a little idle. Okay? They're idle. They've been working really hard. They've acquired some things, but they're a little bit complacent. They've worked themselves to a good place where they're just kind of relaxing a little bit. But you have to be very careful when this card comes up, because if you're too idle, those resources, those things that you've accumulated can kind of go by you quickly. And before you know it, you're having to jump back in that rat race and get some things going again for yourself. And it may cause you to kind of move into a different direction or what have you. So this is sort of like a cautionary message a lot of times when this card comes up, to just say, look, you're doing really good. Keep it up, but keep on doing what you're doing. Like, don't just take a break because, you feel like you need to stop, or you need to go in a different direction, or you're trying to question what you're doing. This is not the time to do it. That's what this is. Now, I'm calibrated psychically to about 3 months out. And depending on the heaviness of the card, I'm getting about 2.5 months on this, by the way. Depending on the heaviness of the card, I can tell you kind of a pinpoint about the time that you'll start to see this kind of come into play. Excuse me. So, so when that card comes, it's not a bad card. I mean, things have been happening, but it's just kind of like a slow down period. You'll start to see this slow down period happen in about 2.5 months from now. When you start to see that, hopefully maybe some kind of a restlessness will overcome you, and then you'll realize, wait a minute, I'm taking too much time. I'm getting too much in my head. And when I get too much in my head, that's when, things start to fall apart, crumble around you, and that kind of thing. In other words, conflict starts to come into play. Now, let's talk about this 10 a little bit. We said that this is sort of like the legacy card. This is where we have done so well for ourselves that we start to leave a legacy behind. We start to accumulate things and so on and so forth. Let's talk about that now with regard to the energy, like what is really behind that. here's really the key right now to the present situation with, and it's patience. So temperance is all about patience. So the message that we're getting from this text message coming forward is going to be one of patience, bearing with me. Temperance, if you see temperance here, you see the angel, but you see these two cups and you see this here liquid. It could be water. It could be a combination of different types of chemicals or whatever that are being a concoction of sorts that's being mixed. Okay. Now, when things are mixed, we're trying to get to a right proportion, right? So if you mix potion A with potion B and potion C, but you mix them in the right concoction, you might get something really amazing, something that tastes great, that does exactly what you need it to do. However, if you misproportion those in any way different than the best way of putting them, then you get something subpar. So you get something that's not quite excellent. Temperance is always reminding us, take a little bit of time to get things right. And that's what this is really all about. So this text message, like as it comes through, before you respond to the text message, temperance is saying, make sure that you dot your I's and cross your T's, and that you're just kind of patient with this person, like when they're texting you. Don't get yourself really like out of sorts by the message or anything along those lines. Just kind of let things kind of fall into place for you, and just get a good mind wrapped around it, and have a little bit of patience. Like before you respond, take a little bit of time. And that's going to really help your situation, because you want the best communication possible. Like when you're working in relationships, or you're texting, or you're doing anything like this, we are so driven anymore by just automation, and that's just automatic responses. We see this when people are text messaging and they put the LOL because they just want the person on the other end to know that, I'm just kind of joking around here. I'm just kind of making light of the situation. And, before it was laugh out loud, it was just kind of a nice way of softening the message a little bit. In the same way, temperance is saying, okay, when you have these messages, just, put forward your reply in the best way possible. Like really put some thought and consideration into it. Just don't do it in an automated way, do it in a very nice way. And that's what temperance is really saying here. And by doing that, you're going to be just, this is going to be a very good situation for you. Good outcomes happen when you see this. Let's talk about kind of what you're looking for, Sam, in terms of this relationship and what you're hoping for, what your attitude about this whole thing is. This card comes up, okay? So this is the Six of Cups. Cups are all about relationships. So we're talking about relationships specifically with you. This particular card here is often, I refer to it sort of as the nostalgia card. Nostalgia is about really about reliving the past, or reliving a moment in time, about connecting with something that was very meaningful in your life once upon a time, and trying to reconnect yourself with that energy. And that's essentially what this is. You see a young boy, a little bit older than the girl, but handing her off a cup that's in the flower. So it's white is about purity and innocence. So it's about more innocent times often is when this card comes up. But what you see, he's very innocently handing her the thing. There's no hardness to this. It's a very good card, actually. And it's kind of what you're desiring is like, you want things to kind of go back to the way they were, or you want to at least can have a connection like you once upon a time did. And that's actually what you're hoping for. Let's look at really the outcome to all of this. Okay, so what was the outcome? Because ultimately we have the text message, fine, we get that, fine. We understand what that message is all about, we get it. But what is the outcome of all of this? Like moving forward, like with this relationship and everything. The outcome card is the Ace of Swords. Okay, so just to kind of bring some meaning to this, aces, like when we see the aces, it's usually like the first card, right? So when we think of one, we always think of sort of like new beginnings. Okay, so that's like numerology with new beginnings. The Ace of Swords is kind of a new beginning, but it's a new way of thinking about things, because we have the sword here. Swords are about mental. They're about things of the mind, thoughts, ideas, things on that end. So it's not really about action. And we have the proverbial hand here holding the sword. We see the royalty, that's represented with the crown. We see new growth and stuff, like victory and stuff, and everything turning out really nicely. But this is kind of a fresh start. Now, what this really means is that It's really, really positive, because like this fresh start doesn't mean that you won't be with this person, that you've shared this relationship with. It could just mean that moving forward, the relationship will be in a different context, like in a newer context, in a new way. And it's going to actually be quite nice. I mean, that's the energy that I'm picking up with this particular card anyway. I'm feeling a sense of like maybe a reconnection happening, but done slightly different than before. It's maybe not going to be as heavy an energy as what it once was, but it's going to be a very good energy, like a very, this is like seasoned. It's a difference between something that's more surface and something that's more seasoned, something that's got, more of a foundation behind it. And that's what this is working toward building. But it's starting new, so we have to take our time with it. Again, we have that temperance card, which is all about having patience, nurturing things along. That's really the key here, is that moving forward, things will be more in a nurtured way for you. And what is the answer, or what is the key to that? What's the key that kind of unlocks the door to get this fresh start, this new beginning? It's the Page of Swords. Pages are all about messages. They give us messages. They bring us messages. Swords, again, in the mind. So it's a mindful message, basically, is what we're getting from this Page of Swords. And you notice, like, we have the white, fluffy clouds, we have the beautiful just kind of scenery here and stuff. This is a carefree kind of attitude, a carefree mentality. We're talking about younger person represented in this card right here. And so that's a kind of energy that it kind of brings. Blue skies, clear day. It's just one of those absolutely, amazing days that starts the journey moving forward. And that's really what we're getting with this to pull in with this Ace of Swords. So the Ace of Swords is really having control over our mind, moving a relationship in a new way, moving it forward. And then when we have the Page of Swords, it's really that carefree mind. And that's really what this is all about. So the text message is going to be basically, to put it all together for you, to wrap all of this up, the text message is basically going to be, I don't want to say like a peace offering of sorts, but it's just going to be a very nice message. One of like, kind of almost like giving back in a way. There's some reciprocity that's going to happen with that text message. And then we have the, even though you may be more feeling like wanting things to go back to the way they maybe once were, what this is essentially doing is it's setting a bedrock foundation for a new kind of relationship to happen that's actually merging. It's coming out of this. So it's sort of like the Phoenix rising. This is where things start to move in a different direction and move more forward. But what you'll notice with this is that you'll be more mindful of things, more in control of your mind, and you'll have more of a patient nature moving forward that will really help the relationship out a lot. And that's essentially really what we're getting. And also, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this episode of Indirect Knowledge. Sim, if you need anything, please reach out to me. Of course, you've got my number and my email address and everything. I'll have that in the description below this video. Guys, thanks so much for watching. As monks, I always put this out there. If you have the means and you're able to help, your donations really do help us to be able to serve humanity in a really nice, profound way. Bring love for God to others, teach a message of spirituality, be there for other people in a really real way so that we can serve in the best way that we possibly can. We do a lot of cooking and a lot of things for the community. So all of that does go to a good cause, and it really does help us foster and build upon this message of love for God. So if you want to donate, you can. And the way to do that is just to go to helpbydonating.com. Whatever is in your heart, please give. If it's not within your means, of course, don't. But whatever you do, just make sure it's from the heart. That's what we ask. And also, if you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up or a like. Please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you want to get notifications when we come on, so that maybe if you have a question or something that you'd like to get answered, a lot of times people in this chat will actually ask questions and different things. And then, once we get done with the main reading, we may then be able to go in and touch on a few questions that people may have and answer and do some additional readings in that. Love to do that. Love to help people. And that's really what this is all about. So if you have any desire for that, please hit that bell notification below the video. Not really sure exactly what site it is on, but you can do that. And then you'll get notification when we come on. And we would love to have you. I mean, I'd love to have you in the chat. If nothing else, just to say hello or something, if you want. And that's really it. So much love, many blessings. If you guys need anything, of course, reach out, and we will see you on the next episode of Indirect Knowledge.